What's up, guys? Toxic Relish back. Got another video for you. This time we got a little something different. We got an anime review this time. Draco Mihawk is a fraud. Let's take a little look. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe.
Where did the Fraud Hawk meme come from? I'm not a manga reader, but as far as I know, he hasn't done anything to deserve the fraud title, right? So it's funny that you say that, because the fact that he hasn't done anything is exactly where this title comes from. If you go to the One Piece subreddit and type in Mihawk a fraud, you'll realize that this has been a shockingly common topic over the years, ever so many years, including...
Not like fucking dead ass. Like, bro, okay. Y'all need to understand. My guy has literally done nothing throughout the whole fucking series. Like, actually nothing. Proactively just been a bystander, bro. It's genuinely crazy.
Ever so many threads with the exact same name. In my search, I got these two, one above the other with the exact same title, Mihawk is a fraud, which were posted 5 years apart, and the only difference between them is that the user 6 years ago decided to use a full stop. Nice and grammatically correct. But there is quite a rich and compelling history behind
crazy
this.
update.
Fraud Hawk, as you can see, is not a recent development, and this skepticism has been following Mihawk for pretty much the entire history of the series, and a lot of it has to do with feats, because online One Piece fans are more obsessed with feats than Quentin Tarantino. As if you're involved in any kind of a
Dan Schneider
power scale, then characters are generally compared by the individual displays of power that they have conjured, aka their feats. And the big problem with Mihawk is that he just has so very few feats to show. At the time of this recording, he's defeated East Blue Zoro, and that's good work. So he's at least on par with the sugar glass bottle that also...
Basically, this guy has literally just beat base Zoro. Base Zoro is literally nothing. He can beat some bandits at best.
Defeated Zoro in the live-action East Blue. And as for who else Mihawk has beaten, well, there were the two unnamed newcomer at Marineford, so that might be a step up from the bottle. And he did also briefly clash with Mr. Sir Crocodile, although that doesn't give the greatest impression considering that Crocodile was beaten by pre-Haki, pre-Gear, pre-Time Skip Luffy. However, what came after them was Commander of the Whitebeard Pirates, Vista. They fought pretty equally for about a panel before Mihawk suggested postponing the duel, because apparently the very moment that someone can stand up to Mihawk...
Not this dude Vista aura farming on my boy Mihawk. He said, hey yo, my fault. We can't settle this right now. One of us is way too strong and I won't put it out. He's the GOAT. He's actually the GOAT. He's created so many memes.
I want to make this clear. In the anime, Mihawk and Vista, they fight for quite an extended period of filler. But in the manga, it is instant. Vista, he jumps into the fight, and then Mihawk immediately suggests postponing it. In context, yes, Vista had
crazy. I didn't read that.
This was beneficial to him, but Mihawk, he didn't really have any other concerns. There was nothing at the Paramount War that was really bothering him personally. And the one thing that he allegedly loves to do in this world is to face a strong swordsman. And when given the opportunity to do just that, he wiggled his way out like a well-lubed otter. So we will never know who was stronger, Mihawk.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44
or Vista. And what also doesn't help is that the prototype character who inspired Mihawk was Cyrano from Oda's One-Shot Monsters, who was a legitimate fraud, especially when compared to Ryuma, and Mihawk's poor feats.
I don't know if many people watched that. I think it was like, it was like a movie basically where we see Ryuma, that famed swordsman that you hear all about, glazed in the story. He's actually a monster, to be fair. He is actually crazy. But in that movie, you just get to see pretty much what Zoro... I think that was gonna be the main character of One Piece for a good minute. That was his original design for Luffy, but he changed it up.
Really don't stand up to any of history's greatest swordsmen, like say one Kozuki Oden, who almost beat Kaido one-on-one. And Kaido...
I may be wrong about that. Check me out in the comment sections.
Is a surprisingly important and kind of funny factor in this discussion, as it's actually one of his quotes that provides the most damning evidence against Mihawk in this trial. This comes to us courtesy of chapter 1001, where Kaido examines Luffy and states, "What happened after I destroyed him and Kuri? There are only a scant few capable of fighting me. How high will your ceiling go?"
And guess who ain't in this fucking list? Guess who ain't here? It's the damn fraud himself. Like, that's crazy, dog.
And in this moment, Kaido does his best impression of a mid-2010s YouTuber and constructs his own top 5 list featuring the strongest
Bro, got my top 5 rappers right here, bro.
And
this
on
is my
that
top
list,
5.
we have former Pirate King Goldie Roger, former Whitebeard Edward Newgate, former Dan Rocksteady Zebek, Kozuki Odin, Figgle and Shanks, and Dracule not there. Mihawk is nowhere to be seen in Kaido's top 5. And I think it makes sense that Kaido's never fought Mihawk, because Mihawk, what interest would he have in that? Kaido is a clubman, not a swordsman. But it's still some pretty harsh feedback that Kaido doesn't even consider Mihawk to be capable of fighting him. Because everyone remembers the iconic "how high will your ceiling go" quote, but what goes a bit unnoticed is Kaido's prior line, "There are only a scant few capable of fighting me." And Mihawk, according to Kaido, is not one of them. Which is slightly awkward because Shanks is, and he's arguably a swordsman, and we even have an undeniable swordsman in the mix being Kozuki Odin, and if you wanted to get weirdly technical, then Goldie Roger was also a swordsman, as was Rocksteady Zebek from what we know about him so far, and Whitebeard, well, he used a blade, but we won't count that. But even then, in Kaido's top 5, at least 4 of them appear to be swordsmen, and Kaido has just judged that Mihawk ain't on their level. However, another way to thoroughly judge a swordsman is through the Black Blade method.
It's honestly now that's starting to come to me, bro. This motherfucker Mihawk really has no feats now that you really think about it, bro. Cause like, we talk shit on Dragon, but like this actual absentee father has at least done something as far as we've seen. He at least leads the Revolutionary Army, and they're doing some demonic stuff. Spoilers, I guess. And we've seen him at least change the weather. We saw him mess up Smoker. Yeah, Smoker got absolutely cooked by him. He even started a tsunami or a monsoon, I think. I literally from just using, I assume, we actually have no clue, but we think it's his devil fruit. But like, bro, Mihawk, you are a waste of fucking space. Every single time you are on screen, we question you more and more and more. What is your feat? Beating up fucking Buggy, my guy? What is Buggy finna fucking do, bro? Don't get me wrong. I love my goat, Buggy. He's definitely still on my stocks. I'm probably gonna be Pirate King. I ain't gonna cap. Low key, y'all might hate on that, but my Buggy stocks are all the way up. Honestly, full on ahead, but that's just my rant on. That's my rant on Mihawk, bro. He's my hater. Mo, correction. I can't speak right. He got me mixing up words from my hate. I'm his hater. I hate him.
Powerful swordsmen are the ones that have managed to create a black blade of their own, which Ryuma did with Shusui, as did Mihawk with Yoru. And so every time a new swordsman shows up in One Piece, you
man, I've seen the memes. You ain't getting away with that shit.
Saying no black blade, judging the new swordsmen for their evident lack of skill and worth as a sharp metalman. But the thing is, aside from this black blade business, almost every swordsman in One Piece has shown more of those sweet, sweet feats than Mihawk has, which has led to a bit of an expose on how Mihawk achieved his black blade, a process in 4 parts. Step 1, purchase black paint at your local art supply or hardware store. Step 2, apply paint to sharp metal of your choosing.
Hey, Step 3, perform 40 giving you the formula right now. Bars,
finally, step 4,
straight bars.
You are now ready to pretend to be the world's strongest swordsman. And this was the birth of the iconic Fraud Hawk. And you can always spot one in the wild because they'll be carrying a half-painted sword, a paint tin, and a paintbrush. And one of the most hilarious parts about this whole fake black blade business is that this concept did eventually become somewhat canon. In chapter 1111, in his fight against the
Would you believe it or not? We actually watched. Hold up, let's just get this shit. Yeah, we literally watched Luffy eat down a fucking tree and then sit here. Spoiler. He painted a goddamn tree with hockey. What?
Luffy chewed a tree into a baseball bat, then took a paintbrush and a black can of paint and turned his bat into a black bat. The implication potentially being that this was Luffy's incredibly comical method of applying armament haki in this form, but it is so shockingly similar to the Fraudhawk meme that you
literally
have to
has
wonder
to
if
be.
Oda has seen it. But I think that is very possible.
There's no fucking way he hasn't,
Mihawk
bro.
Actor Stephen John Ward did for quite some time use the iconic Fraudhawk sword painting image as his profile picture on Twitter. One of the reasons why this meme has taken off so phenomenally is because Mihawk.
Bro, the Mihawk hate is my shit. I love Mihawk slander, bro.
Each and every time. We've already explored the whole Vista situation, but after the Warlord system was dissolved, a man who I will remind you all once held the epithet of Marine Hunter ran away as soon as the Marines started chasing him a little bit, and he went on to become the subordinate
Marine Hunter. Marine Hunter
suggested that they go after the One Piece. Mihawk expressed great hesitance at fighting Shanks, Blackbeard, and even Luffy. All right, so there is an artist on Twitter who I absolutely love named Togashi, and he has this unparalleled talent to distill and refine feelings imbued in panels like this. And in response to this chapter, Togashi made the following work, where a proud Buggy is exclaiming, "Let's go claim the One Piece," whilst Mihawk is next to him going, do we have to fight the Yonko?
Oh my god. Spoiler, skip ahead if you don't want to hear this, but bro, this dude being in Cross Guild with Buggy was honestly just the saddest thing I ever saw. It was just the biggest glow down I'd ever seen for someone that was a Yonko level for us. I was like, bro, you're technically a subordinate. As far as the world knows, you are a subordinate to Buggy. Damn, shit has gotten rough for you, bro.
With his trademark sword, paintbrush, and black paint tin sitting behind him. So one of the reasons why I love this meme so much is because it reverses the roles. Buggy, he is traditionally the fraud, but here, and in the actual series I should say, he is the one being completely genuine about his desires and ambition. And then you've got allegedly one of the most powerful people in the world kind of pissing himself in the corner. I don't want to do any of the fighting. And considering that Marine Admiral Kizaru offered to go to Wano all on his own and deal with Big Mom and Kaido at the same time, this sort of hesitance is not a good look from the world's strongest swordsman, resulting in a series of memes of Mihawk in tears and claiming I still have the East Blue, which to date
Oh my god. Dude, they did him so wrong with those. He's just done so fucking dirty and I love it. I love that shit. He has no feats, and I will not stand any feats before pre-time skip is just, at this point in the story, we can't use that as a feat anymore, bro. We can't. Maybe we can use it as an explanation, but a feat at this point in the story, bro, we in endgame, bro. It's endgame.
Still Mihawk's greatest performance in the series. But in retrospect, was it really all that great?
That's what I'm saying,
East
bro.
Blue Bunglenut Don Krieg, he has some rather fascinating reactions during the Baratie arc. For example, when he realizes who Zeph is, Don Krieg soils himself a little, and he is petrified to learn that he is dealing with the Red-Leg Zeph. However, when Don Krieg interacts with Mihawk, an also famous man, arguably much more famous, Krieg arrogantly assumes that he can defeat Mihawk. There is a distinct imbalance of of respect. And maybe you can put that down to Don Krieg being a poor judge of character, if you could believe that.
The fact that Brody was more afraid of Zeph than Mihawk really needs to put that into perspective.
At the end of the fight, Baratier, Zoro uses his 3-sword style secret technique, 3000 Worlds, and mate, as he is doing it, just look at this close-up of Mihawk and tell me that this isn't the most worried that Mihawk has ever looked in the entire
this is a bandit.
He's all wide-eyed.
This is a bandit
at
this point.
Sweat drop leaking down his
You got
face,
hockey.
which is the exact same style of sweat that Don Krieg had drizzling down his face when he realized that
I get it. Hockey wasn't created as a system at this point.
In Krieg's interaction with Mihawk.
People will say, oh, hockey wasn't created as a system in this point. Bro, even then, regardless, the way that this man is glazed in the story, he should have not even looked at anything that Zoro could have done and been like, oh, this is even a slight threat. It should have been a breeze.
Mind you. And look, we've seen Mihawk go up against a lot of people. Vista, Whitebeard. And that's pretty much it.
That's it, bro.
Cases, Mihawk was perfectly calm and collected. And yet, against East Blue Zoro, this dude is panicking. And let's be clear here, it's not because he thinks he may lose to Zoro. No. It's because after having committed to using Yoru to finish Zoro, Mihawk is worried that this secret technique might scratch some of the black paint off and reveal him for the fraud that he is and call his title into question.
The fraud.
I will say that the title itself has always somewhat been in question. Depending on the translation you read or watch, Mihawk is either referred to as the world's strongest swordsman or the world's greatest swordsman, and the distinction between them is extremely important in regards to the Fraud Hawk narrative. And the original Japanese title is Sekkai Saikyo no Kenshi, which is pretty unambiguously world's strongest swordsman, strong indicating strength rather than
just
skill,
saying,
world's greatest
we still haven't heard the conclusion of that fight with Mihawk.
What's extremely interesting about this topic is
and
that
Shanks.
Oda himself has been
Shanks is 100% a swordsman.
The world's strongest swordsman over time. In chapter 1058, we discovered Mihawk's post-Warlord bounty, quite the chunksome sum. However, this was accompanied by the statement, Hawkeye's Mihawk, former Warlord of the Sea, with greater sword skill than even Red Hair the Emperor.
Delusional.
This is quite fascinating because Oda is so incredibly careful not to say that Mihawk is stronger than Shanks, but he is more skilled with a sword.
Oh, okay.
Whatever that is. And look, sometimes when lines like this appear, the online fan base quite generously performs a free translation service, and in this case, the translation of this line ends up being, former warlord Hawkeye Mihawk has even greater sword skills, but not strength than the red-haired emperor, who is not actually a swordsman. I'm just bringing him up for fun. He's worth 3,590,000,000 berries, a fitting total for the world's skillest swordsman, because it is very hard to call Mihawk the world's strongest swordsman.
Definitely not.
The fact that one Shanks exists, kind of two actually, two Shanks
yeah.
kind of exist.
Hey, wait,
one of them being out there proves that there is
hold up, I might need to give us
one stronger swordsman out there. But I
Keep
guess
walking.
that's only if
Never
Shanks
mind,
uses
never
his
mind.
full
Never
Shanks
mind.
power and not just stick to the rules of traditional swordplay. And I do get this to some degree. Swordplay, it is an art form in and of itself. And let's take something like chess, for example. It wouldn't be linguistically out of the question to call Magnus Carlsen the strongest chess player of all time, with the distinction being that, with that strongest title, I still wouldn't expect him to do particularly well in an MMA league. And that's where we have a big gray area for Mihawk, where strength as a swordsman seems to be getting conflated with strength as a general combatant. And hey, it is possible that...
See, that does make a lot more sense now that you think. He breaks it down a lot better, honestly, than most people would. It's like, he's way better with the sword, but he's not actually stronger than a lot of people, for example, Shanks. But...
he's both. In fact, in a Reddit thread about this very topic, the distinction between strength and skill, one user very eloquently sums up the difference as, no point in having a big dick if all you're gonna do is thrust. So I hope that clears things up. It's just very difficult to tell how large Mihawk's throbbing skill is and how that compares to strength in general, because Mihawk refuses to fight anyone outside of his strict area of specialty, and given what we saw with Vista, even people within that area. And this goes on to be displayed right here in an
Bro, these
accurately generated
painting
simulation
memes.
of what would happen if Mihawk fought Shanks today. Mihawk would say, okay, just before we begin, I just want to remind you that this is a skill duel and not a strength duel. And for the love of God, please remember to turn off your Conqueror's Haki, which is another thing that people point towards in the Fraud Hawk discussion. The fact that we are almost 1,200 chapters into One Piece.
Wait, he is right. We are this far into the show, and this motherfucker Mihawk has never used Conqueror's Haki once. That's fucking crazy.
And we still have no idea if Mihawk even has Conqueror's
We don't even know if he has it. Actually, you're right.
Realistically, I think it's extremely likely that
he should,
does, but
by
the fact
all
that he
rights.
hasn't shown it yet contributes to Mihawk's lack of feats. I don't even know.
Like, bro, you would have to need an ungodly will to become the strongest, or my fault, the skillest swordsman, right? Bro, sometimes this character just confuses me and angers.
How he walks around with all of these no feats. And considering that Zoro has Conqueror's Haki,
It's like, if we technically go by actual preference, this is technically the strongest, or actually technically the strongest swordsman right now in the series we know. Because, bro, he's got Conqueror's Haki. He can keep up with, no, he can't keep up with Gear 5 Luffy. That is 100% not happening. He can keep up with Awakened Lucci. That's pretty good. I don't know if he would be able to even fight Kizaru, bro. To be honest, like, I think he would get speed blitzed so fucking hard by Kizaru, it'd be sad. Man, bro, we're not getting into strength scaling. Fuck that.
Oh, not that he knew about it. And the reason why he did not knew about it is because Mihawk didn't even teach him during the 2-year time skip. Also, not a good look for Mihawk, perhaps indicating that Mihawk does not have the expertise to teach Conqueror's Haki due to his lack of it. Because is it really necessary in a contest of sword skill anyway? And that is where we land at what I think is the most accurate and best possible title for Mihawk, which is Dracula Mihawk, the world's most skilled but not physically more powerful than Shanks swordsman. But again, not that I quite understand.
That's a beautiful title. That's a perfect.
We call it. Let's call it a
perfect title.
Shanks is confirmed to not be a devil fruit user, and he only has one arm. So it's not like he could play dirty and engage in some sort of punching, even if he wanted to, because he needs that one arm to hold his one sword. So what's the difference then? Why is Shanks kind of disqualified from this? Is it Haki? I don't know. Mihawk uses Haki as well, observation and armament. Is it Conqueror's? Is it just the Conquerors? Probably not, because I imagine Mihawk has that as well. So what is it that Shanks is doing in battle that stops him from being classified as a swordsman? And if it's nothing,
maybe it might
does
be
Mihawk really deserve his title, considering that it is he who refuses to fight Shanks and not the other way around? And if he's not going to fight against Shanks, then mate, you'd best believe there's going to be any number of excuses for not dueling any other top swordsman in One Piece either. Fujitora, for example, is an extremely skilled swordsman. However, would Mihawk even accept his challenge, or would he refuse on the grounds of Fujitora being a devil fruit user? Well, we actually know the answer to this, as we have a scientifically generated rendering of what would happen if Mihawk were to fight Fujitora. After being brutally beaten, Shanks would need to interrupt the fight by being beaten. Shanks would
Wait.
of what would happen.
Wait, I need this freeze frame, bro.
To fight Fujitora. After being
Bro. And honestly, it makes sense. He would just definitely get mollywopped by Marine Admiral. There's just no chance. I think half of the... Unless you're a Yonko, actually, I don't think you have any business even getting close to an Admiral.
Brutally beaten, Shanks would need to interrupt the fight by yelling, "Stop, Admiral! Use your sword skills only, not a devil fruit." And I imagine that the same thing would apply to Green Bull, who is also a swordsman. However, he's a tree. I'm sure that Mihawk would state that he only fights swordsmen, whereas Green Bull is more like a sword flora. But we have the same problem with almost every other swordsman in the series. You'd think that Figgle and Shamrock would be a great choice, right? Just like Shanks, but with 2 arms. Perfect. Well, no, not perfect. perfect because his sword is a Kerberos, and that is cheating.
It's
That's not
Kerberos.
skill, that's fruit. And we have a similar issue with
Cerberus.
Ethan Baron Venus Jiro, who has the powers of a yokai, and after becoming an Elder Star, I think that Vigilant Garling is off the menu, boys, because he's no longer a pure swordsman after accepting Emu's pact. And I see there's a little bit of a problem here, because between Shamrock, Garling, and Ethan, you have count them, three of the objectively best swordsmen in the world, none of which Mihawk would even recognize because they do not fit his criteria. And in the end, it's very easy to be the world's best at anything if the criteria forbids literally anyone except for you to compete in it. And just on that note, we should say that aside from Zoro, nobody in the One Piece world actually seems to care about the world's strongest swordsman title anyway.
That does seem very true. Like literally no one. They might say that Mihawk is the greatest swordsman, but not a single person actually gives a damn about being the greatest swordsman besides my boy Zoro. It's like, it's its only glazing journey, bro. Actually, it is not similar to Luffy. A lot of people want to be Pirate King, bro. Literally only Zoro wants to be the greatest swordsman.
And Garling, Shamrock, and Ethan, but they wouldn't even care to take up the challenge even if they were eligible. Not even Vista seemed all that interested in taking the title, because everyone else in this world has something actually productive it is that they want to do with their lives. In the case of Zoro, he wouldn't even be half as driven to beat Mihawk if it wasn't for the sake of fulfilling Kuina's dream.
Yeah, them
very much
stairs hit him
proving the
different,
iconic
bro.
meme, you can't lose your title if nobody cares about it. Although, as it turns out, that may or may not actually be true. In chapter 925, the interval between Act 1 and 2 of Wano, Mihawk made his first appearance outside of a cover story in post-time skip One Piece, where he was introduced as the world's strongest swordsman, warlord of the sea, Reikyo Mihawk. And there is absolutely nothing unusual about that. However, things get a bit weird from here on. Mihawk's next appearance came with chapter 956, which takes place after the warlord system has been dissolved at the Reverie, and he is introduced as former warlord Reikyo Mihawk, which is very interesting. Notice what's not there, because I knew that Mihawk got his warlord title stripped, but apparently so did the world's strongest swordsman title. That's stripped as well, because it ain't there anymore.
It ain't there,
look,
bro.
Let's go easy on Story Smith, Echiro Oda. Mistakes get made all the time, so let's just look onwards to Mihawk's next appearance, which is chapter 1058, and oh no, it's happened again. He's just introduced
where's
as
the
former
title?
warlord of
Where's the title?
sea, Reikyo Mihawk. No world's strongest swordsman to be seen.
He's
and
cooked.
look, when even the author of the series,
Like, if Oda's saying you are washed, my guy, you are fucking washed. I hate you, Mihawk. Stop being a character and actually doing... I hate you, Mihawk. Stop being a bystander. I need you to actually do something in the story. Please. Please, anything. We don't care. Just show us something that can actually tell us why you're called the strongest, or were called the strongest. My fault. Apparently Oda stripped your title from you. But shit.
series stops acknowledging the title of the character he created, well, that is when your phone rings and the incoming call is flagged as a potential fraud.
I took control.
That was gas. Great video from GrandLineReview. Oh yeah, I'm already subbed. I'm not joining the membership. I kind of don't have the... Bro, what? I don't know why it still shows the subscribe button, even though you're already subscribed. That's pretty odd. But hey, great video from GrandLineReview. Honestly, let me know if you guys like the anime content. I'll continue to pump out videos. Just let me know what you're feeling in the comments down below. Thank y'all. Have a great day. Stay hydrated.